If you want to check out my full Patreon podcast with the different knock, I'll leave my Patreon linked in the description. Also, bear with my mic for this episode, it was a bit dodgy, but I'll get it fixed for the next one.
My concern for you, and I don't know if there's a way you want to take the pod, but my concern from an external perspective is your midfield. I just think Casemiro is consistently left on an island. And like, if you look at, I don't see Varane offering, he's a very good defender and a very good player all round, but I don't think he's a particularly strong build-up guy. Obviously, Alessandro Martinez is. He's good, he's fine from an external perspective. And Casemiro, again, as much as he has his strengths and he's I would say probably world-class top 5 midfielder in the league. I would say that. But again, I wouldn't say his strength is like progressing the play necessarily. Like you wouldn't say it's his number one skill. And I look behind the ball and in front of the ball and I see a massive opportunity for dislocation because you've got Mount and Fernandes who basically want to be further up the pitch.
But before I go any further, are you looking to dramatically improve your fantasy football point score from last season? Well, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Fantasy Football Fix, which is the perfect tool for anyone who wants to get the best possible start to this FPL season, as they provide an Elite 11 team reveal which allows you to track fantasy football's greatest ever managers in real time, with over 82 top 10,000 and 61 top 5,000 finishes. And just in my opinion, if you're not using this and someone else is, you're at a massive disadvantage. But not just that, Fantasy Football Fix also allows you to see the pre-deadline captain ownership data. The assistant manager tool also allows you to unlock transfer optimization, and you can also get predicted prices data to potentially get an advantage in the long run by increasing your team's overall value. And alongside this, they also have stats from Opta, they have predicted player points and much more. And I personally will definitely be using Fantasy Football Fix, and I'll be setting up my own fantasy football league, so I'll put a code somewhere either on the screen or in the description. So not only can you join my league, but you can also use Fantasy Football Fix to try to beat me as well. And so I'll leave it linked in the description for you to go to after this video.
But also, you've got like that disconnection between the two, creating that massive space, and that's what I always see at United. I think Casemiro is given so much to do, and I surely you're looking at a midfielder going, how do we support him, or whether that's inverting the fullback or whatever,
Yeah, because the problem is, I think it's more the system than anything. Because I think if you have Mount and Fernandes ahead of a Casemiro, you need like the fullbacks to invert and stay inverted. But the problem against Wolves was, so Shaw was inverting sometimes alongside Casemiro, but as soon as we lost the ball, like how Man City do it, where like they basically have like a rest defense of like a 2 in front of a 3. Mm-hmm. Whereas when the ball was lost, Luke Shaw straight away goes back into the back line, and then you end up with Casemiro just having to cover the whole space. Yeah, and then that's why we just kept getting bypassed the whole time. But I think we're going to have to like change system at some point, just because I just don't think. Yeah, I agree with you about like the Varane and the Wan-Bissaka, because if you're playing us, if you're just say Arsenal playing us, you're just going to show us over to the right side because our left side is so much stronger in possession. So like you rather have build up through Varane, Wan-Bissaka and Antony, rather than Alessandro Martinez, Luke Shaw and Rashford on the other side. Against Wolves, every time the ball went over to that side, you just get like a feeling of, it's going to break down here, and you just never really have any confidence. And when it does work out, it's because there's been like a bit of luck and someone's been able to break through. But it just seems like there's no consistent patterns as there is for like City and Arsenal. Like the way you and City move the ball is so well orchestrated, and it seems so balanced. Whereas with us, it's more like, if it's over the left side, it's all right. But as soon as it gets over to the right, you're kind of a bit nervous that it's going to break down.
Yeah. I wonder, firstly, I'm interested in how you'd fix that, like a tactical or coach perspective. But secondly, I look at Ten Hag and I look at his football pedigree, and I'm shocked that he said that thing about wanting to be the best transition team in the world. I understand it from the players that you have. Like I get it. But that being the aim, I just think you're setting yourself up for essentially what feels like a sort of massive paradox of the fans wanting more comprehensive victories, but you're playing in a style that is inherently going to win you games by fine margins. If you control a game, you still might win by fine margin, but you've controlled, we had like something like 79% possession against Nottingham Forest. Like we completely controlled the game. We should have scored more, but we completely controlled the game, right? But if you're setting up to transition through the thirds very quickly, the game is going to become more back and forth and a bit more, you're going to concede a lot more chances. And I feel like, from a United fan perspective, which I think is one of them, again, from an external perspective, one of the massive problems is you have this vision as fans that you're still in, 1999 or whatever it is, and still the best team by a mile, should be spanking teams 5-6-0. If that's the United way, then going about it through a transitional game, I can't see that happening from an external perspective.
Yeah. Also, I just don't think. I think if you're going to play like that counter-attacking, quick transitioning system, you need like world-class attackers up front who are going to take the chances when they come. Because obviously, if you're not going to control possession and you're just going to rely on these, like how many good chances do you really get in a half from a quick transition? Maybe 2 or 3. You need to be able to take those. Whereas we did have those. Like if you watch us against Wolves, even though it didn't result in any shots, we actually had a lot of good opportunities where we broke quickly. But Anthony, his decision making is just so bad. Like every time he gets a ball, I just know I don't know what he's going to do, but I know he's not going to do the right
it's going to be wrong.
Yeah. He has like an ability to. I've got a video coming out like in the next few hours, but there was so many opportunities. There was one where Marcus Rashford made like a like a facilitating run where he doesn't really want the ball, but he's dragging away the player so Anthony can move inside. But Anthony's played in the pass and he's ended up out wide with a terrible shooting opportunity. And then there's another time where the right option is to slip Fernandes in down the side, and he plays it across to Mason Mount, who's got like 2 defenders in front of him. And I'm just thinking, if you had someone like the Salah assist for Luis Diaz over the weekend in Chelsea, like that was something that really United need a player who can do that sort of stuff. Like the way Salah was able to drive at his man, come inside and then pick out that pass. Like that's the difference in that game. Like if Liverpool had Anthony on the flank instead of Salah, they don't score that. They probably don't score and they might end up like losing the game. So I think if you want to play this quick transition and attack, you need like clinical finishers. Yeah. Like, I'm happy with Rashford, even though I do think I don't think he's at the level that a lot of people think he's at. But he still has that clinical ability. Whereas at the moment we don't have a forward. I don't know how Højlund's going to like transition. And on the right side, we just look diabolical in terms of like Sancho's all right at picking a pass, but he's just not got that clinical nature that I think United need. Yeah.
That sounds to me like a coaching problem, because I think there's from both the talent ID perspective and from you talk about that run that Rashford makes and then Anthony makes the wrong decision. And I think when you're consistently seeing your players make the wrong decision, something I love from an Arsenal perspective is that Arteta, a lot of the players talk about how decisions are kind of automated. Yeah. So you get into the final third and right, in this position, I know that my centre forward is going to make that run to open up that space. And it may not work, but if you do it 10 times a game, at some point you are going to have a little moment. Like, for example, if you look at the Saka goal at the weekend, it comes from it comes from Saka being unbelievable, but it comes from Havertz basically vacating the centre to give him the space. And he does that a lot. Like Havertz, actually, he's someone who, I think is going to be maligned a lot by Arsenal fans, and it's going to be hard to see his value because it's not obvious. But he does a lot of facilitative work and a lot of stuff where he's vacating and staying and moving around and creating space and whatever, which is obviously important and good for people who really care about the game. But for those who sort of see it more casually, might not see that.